Welcome back to our channel. We are James and Kelly, and we are converting our van ProMaster into a tiny home on wheels so that we can go to South America with our 2 cats.
In today's episode, we are finishing out the areas around both our side doors and back doors, talking about the top and the sides.
Pretty excited because once we get the top part above our sliding door done, we're going to have all of our electrics plugged in, ready to go, which means we can use our heater properly, and it's getting cold outside. Let's get to building. Woo, woo. Wrong way. This project is to work on the trim that goes above our rear doors and the sides of the rear doors, along with the trim that goes above our sliding door.
Above our rear doors, we plan on making it into a shelf. So to do that, we bought a 1x12 common board pine from Home Depot, and this is what we'll be using to make the shelf. One of the first things we need to do is cut the edges to make it fit into the space, and then we will be scribing the top to our ceiling. We are ready to start scribing. I've just kind of made a makeshift scribe tool out of some scrap plywood that we had. I measured the space from the board to the most top part, and then I marked that on a piece of wood and made a hole there for a pencil to go through. And then I also trimmed the top so it had more of a point to it. Another thing that I did is I attached 2 pieces of wood on each side to support this, and this way it also makes sure that this board is even and straight. So I marked, oh my goodness, these come out. I put the 2 pieces of wood on because I wanted this shelf to be super straight with the van. Our ceiling is not as perfectly straight, so I couldn't just use that as the point. So I put these pieces of wood up. I measured it based off the pieces of metal in the van. So this should be very straight. And then this gap right here is the gap, my scribe tool. Ow! Ow! Oh, did it sting you?
Yeah. Ow!
Alright, come on.
Well, that was one of the most annoying things that has happened during this van build. I just got stung by a bee.
Was it recording the whole time?
Yeah. That was annoying. But we're going to get back to it now that my leg has partially recovered. It's not as red anymore. Still hurts a little bit, but let's get back to scribing this.
Did our scribe and I cut it out, and it might not look very pretty right now, but it definitely works for what we want. And it's okay that it's not like perfectly touching everywhere, because we will have a trim piece that runs along here filling that gap. And we also made this board longer than what the back wall goes, because this is going to be the back part of our shelf, and then our shelf is going to come out from this board. And then all we need to do is just put some boards up here to hide the metal. We went through and marked each spot where our furring strips were, and Kelly went through and drilled and countersunk all the holes. So we put the board up. That way we can measure the spot in between our back door and this board, because we're going to put a board there hiding all the metal. 3.5.
It's 3.5 the whole way.
That's a good question. I would say yes. I went through and measured the piece that will go along the top side of that door between our shelf board and the back doors. And I marked where the hinges, those black hinges are, because I'm just going to make one solid piece and cut out those spots so it can go up and cover as much of the metal as possible. I finished cutting out the bottom board and I've added a couple of things. One is I did a chamfer on the edge of this because I had to add an extra block underneath, because where the door hinges are, the metal comes down just a little bit more. So now when I put this piece of wood up, it goes behind the weather stripping, and it looks like that, which I think is a much cleaner look. And I did make it in 2 pieces. The underside will look something like this.
The next part we're working on for the upper cabinet is going to be the ledge that is going to be the bottom of our shelf. We do have an upper cabinet that's going to go here that's still working on being painted, so we do need to get the measurements to know where the ledge can be.
This is what it looks like with our cabinet up, and we've marked right now where the front of our cabinet lines up with the shelf. So this space right here we're thinking is going to be not necessarily dead space, but we're going to be putting a piece of wood there to provide extra support for the cabinet, something that I can screw into, and then the rest of this space will be a shelf.
So our shelf will be about like that long, which is plenty of extra little storage space to fit a projector and the little random things that we have.
I've given these boards a quick sand just to get them smoothed down, and now what I want to do is put some pocket holes into the shelf, the bottom portion. That way I can attach it to the backing board. Now I'm going to glue it onto my backing board. So I've got marks on the bottom of this telling me where this board should go. But I've also noticed that this board is a little bit warped. It's not perfectly straight. So what I'll have to do is each pocket hole screw that I put in, I'll have to put a new clamp in to get it, make sure that it's flat with the edge. We've got our blocks cut. That'll go as the supports, the top supports for our shelf. And now we're picking out a design that we want to do. So I went and got some scrap plywood and I kind of cut out this nice little curve. And both Kelly and I think that looks pretty good. We don't want this to go all the way to the top because we want our trim that will hide that gap between the shelf and the ceiling to run the entire length of the ceiling. I'm going to use a router now to cut out the blocks using the template as a guide. I'm just using a flush bit to cut it out, and it should give me an exact replica of the template that I made. I've got the 3 pieces. The router worked really well cutting out using the template. I did mess up on this one a little bit. It kind of chipped off the wood, but it's not really noticeable. And this is what it'll look like up. It'll separate this shelf into our 2 parts. To put on our little edges, I am using some clamps, glue, and a nail gun to put everything together. Clamps and glue will pretty much do the job. I'm just using the nail gun for a little extra strength, I guess. Our shelf is now painted and ready to go up. It's super windy today, so you could probably hear it. But we have also drilled in a hole right in the middle. This is where we're going to put an outlet. Now that everything's ready, we're going to go ahead and put it up on the wall. Once we put the shelf up, we'll then put the 2 pieces that trim out the underside of the shelf.
Because our shelf is not flush up against the pieces that we put for the furring strips, we are just putting shims up into the back to help kind of give it that little, what's the word called?
A better angle. Good.
Before we put up the bottom piece for underneath our shelf, we are replacing our van's dome light with a new one that is just a lot brighter and a little bit more sleek than the bulky original design of the dome light. So what we've done is we've attached the red positive for the light to the red wire from our ProMaster. Then there's 2 others. There's the black and the white. We've done some testing. If we connect the black to the black, it just automatically will stay on and it won't be automatic so when we open the doors. If we did the white and the black, it allows it to be automatic. We want these to be automatic so that when we are coming into our van at night, it will light up our van and we're going to be able to see the surrounding. It also is going to help us know if we've made sure to close all of our doors, because these doors are really hard to close and make sure that they are latched. We got a light. And then I close it. Takes a little bit. And it goes away. Pretty excited about this. But now that we're going to attach it, we just have this tiny little hole into our backing so that these wires can go through it. Hold it out.
Oh, it's on.
Hey!
Yeah. Here's what I mean.
Plug it in. Let's charge my phone. I have a new spot to charge my phone.
Nice.
The odd thing about this one is the black is the positive and the white is the negative. I'm just gonna shove it all the way back in here.
Okay.
Back over there.
Yeah. We're moving on from above our back doors to above our side door, and the plan is to finish out this top area, which we have designated as our control station. As you can see by all of these labels and cables that we have up here, this will control our inverter, our heater, our electricity, pretty much everything, our water. So the goal is to finish this out, and what we're thinking is to basically box this out right here. And I know that this piece right here is at an angle, so the goal is to kind of like straighten it out so it goes up and down, and then it goes right underneath to finish on the weather stripping right here. And then it'll come from our partition wall all the way to our cabinets. That way we can cover all of this metal on both sides, and it'll just look so much cleaner, neater, and usable. Another important thing about it is we need to make sure that it's level up and down with the van. For our one core, which gives a bunch of information, helpful information for RVers, like whether you're on a level surface, which is why we need it perfectly straight up and down. We just drove around a little bit and we found a school parking lot that had a very level surface, so we are using this area. I've already tested the ground. The ground is completely level based on this. Our van does sit with our back a little bit higher than the front. It won't be completely level there, but we are level side to side right now, and that's really what I want. So now I'm just going to be using 2 pieces of wood that I've put together using a screw as a level, or as a angle finder, and then I'm just going to match it up with my level to find the angle from right here to what we need to make it straight up and down as best as we can. I should have done it more to where I can put the angle in it. Looks like we're looking at about 22 degrees. We've decided to retry leveling the van again because we really wanted our one core to be perfectly leveled. And so what we did is we actually brought the van to the most level place that we could find. We put a level in our floor and we used jacks to jack up one side of the van to get it perfectly level this way and that way. And then we used this angle finder to find the angle that we needed by holding it up here and then having a level that goes straight up and down. And through all of that method, we have found that 25 degrees is the angle that we need to make this perfectly straight up and down. To level out our box, I am building these little angle pieces just out of a 2x4 that we have laying around. And we're going to glue these up onto the space above our sliding door. And then we're going to glue another spacer board on top of these because a lot of our controls actually like sink in 3/4 to 1 inch deep. So we need 1 inch of space for them to sit into the wall. So I'm gonna put these up and then a 1/2 inch piece of wood and then a 1/2 inch piece of plywood for our face. And that should give us enough room for all of the cords and everything. I'm putting up the angled blocks now up here. I'm just using glue for right now because what I want to do is just to have them be sticky on it. All right, so with them sticking onto the wood, I'm now going to use this like piece of wood. It's straight, and I'm going to press it down on all the blocks so that this piece of wood is touching each block at the exact same spot in the angle. So that way we have a completely like level plane right here that I can use. The same concept, except now with a piece of metal. Now that I got them all level with each other to have a flat plane, I'm gonna go ahead and use the nail gun and tack them in. It'll be fine. I've got all of the angled blocks glued up and on, so now it's time to put on the spacers, which are just 1/2-inch plywood that I've cut. We need the spacers, that way we can get the cords in and out of these spots to get into the faceboard. So I'm just going to be gluing up some 1/2-inch pieces of wood and using the nail gun again to stick them on there. And then once those are fully glued up, then we can start working on our faceboard, cutting out the holes and everything. We took off our panel that was above our sliding door off the wall. Since we have everything marked, what we're going to do now is cut out all the holes. But before we do that, I also want to give this edge a round so we don't have a sharp edge right above our head as we're getting in and out of the van. So I'm just taking a 1/4 round on a router and just clipping this whole edge. Because this is plywood, it might not look or as solid, so we'll have to wood fill this and sand it.
All of the holes are cut for our control panel. Now to test it to see how everything looks together. We have our automatic light switch, so every time we open the door, we'll have a light. Our on-off switches. 1, 2. And then we have the inverter. The heater. G. And our smoke detector. Yay! That's great. Obviously the heater doesn't stay in its place, but it will once we screw it. But
Control panel.
love it!
Really quickly, I'm going to make the underside of our control panel. It's just going to be a flat board that goes under. I've cut it to 3 3/16 and it fits perfectly between the face and the weather stripping on the door. The only problem is we want it to go all the way to our cabinet, so about right here is where I need to do some scribing to go around some bumps in the metal. So that shouldn't take me too long. I've already gotten some little pencil scribing marks on here, so I'm just going to cut these out or sand them down using the jigsaw and the sander. This is the piece that I scribed to fit underneath of our control panel. I had to put a chamfer in all the way across right here because this is where the metal is kind of curving out, and right now without anything attaching it I can just put it up and it'll stay because of the weather stripping. And on the other side it's just a nice straight piece. It's already cut, and that's that. And our control panel box is ready to be put together.
Now for the fun part, which is painting. And then as this paint dries, we're going to move back to the back doors and work on our side trims.
We went ahead and glued up some furring strips to the sides of our back doors, and we kind of used the same method that we used for our panels on our doors. We just wanted these strips to fill in the depth that was created by the indent in the metal, and that way we can put a board up here, and I've already cut out this template. and it kind of sits in and fills up the entire space, hiding all of the metal so we don't have to see it. And it also provides space for us to put easy cool in all of these open spaces to get that much more insulation. Up here we're putting in basically permanent panels because we won't need to access anything in these upper corners of our van. And then up here we'll be boxing out using the shelf, so you won't be able to see this corner as well. Down below right here, this is where all of our backlights access is. So we'll actually be making panels that we can take on and off to be able to access our backlights if we ever need to change a light or get into anything back here. And this is also where a lot of our electrical cords, especially our solar panel cords, run out to our electrical system. One good thing about the Ram ProMaster is both sides are symmetrical, so I only need to make one template, and then I can make 2 sides out of just one. After going back and forth, I've managed to make these 2 panels that'll go right here. Kelly went ahead and easy cooled all of the metal spots to give us better insulation. And so now I can just slide these up in. This one goes up like that. And what I'm thinking that I'll do is I'll put some type of trim piece where they meet to hide that, and then all of this stuff on the side will be covered by our walling that comes and meets it. First thing that we're going to do now is screw them in so we have all of the holes to where they're going to attach to, and then we're going to take them off and paint them and then bring them back and put them back on. This one's gonna be a pain. Another little finishing touch that we're adding on to the underside of this kind of trim piece that we have here are these corner covers. Now, the corners of a Ram ProMaster are super rounded, so it's really hard to build anything on that. So I kind of built these corner covers to fall in line with the bottom of our shelf and just cover the corner. Our control panel is now painted and ready to be put up so we can attach all of our electronics. Good.
It is freezing in here without our heater going. We're trying to get this panel up as soon as possible so we can at least just get the heater in.
So just like that. I'm gonna hook this up real quick. Just, you know, just have it hooked up. Oh, so cold.
One thing we hate is our LED lights flicker. That's our next problem to fix.
So far we've got our light, our 2 switches, and our heater up, and now I'm on the 1 core. And like I've said before, for the 1 core it needs to be on a level surface. Right now the van's kind of on an uneven surface, so what I'm going to do is try to make it just right even with this board, because when we designed to put up this board we put the van on a level surface and got all of the measurements. So right now it should be good. So I'm going to keep it at that. The Renogy does give you a little connector with a leveler on it. So if I have to adjust it later, I can. And also they give you screw holes to where you can move it just a little bit left and right. that looks nice. We've got all of the controls for our control panel set up. We've got our Renogy 1 core, our Robusto heater smart temp, our Renogy inverter on and off switch, our water heater on and off switch, our water pump switch, and then we have our automatic light that'll turn on and off when we open our side or back doors. The last thing that I need to install is our smoke detector.
It's so lopsided.
What the heck? This is straight up and down though. Oh, I need to go all the way through.
It's still lopsided. What the heck?
We're putting on the bottom now, and this will just fit right here. Like that. And it stays in without me having to touch it currently. But we're going to go ahead and screw it into the blocks that we glued onto the faceboard. That way it'll stay. And then I'll come through and caulk any of the gaps. And then we'll give everything a fresh clean paint over once we get to that part. That'll be once our walls are up though. Voila. Boom.
That looks really nice.
Our control center is now pretty much done. There are some final touches that we need to do, like putting trim up here at the top, and we're doing some wood fill to cover any of the kind of gaps that we have. Some other things that we're going to do are put in a shelf right here. That way we'll kind of like be able to put something over this corner piece that's kind of hard to attach walling to. And put a final coat of paint on everything, because I don't know if you can tell, our door is a completely different shade of white than this control center and our cabinets, because we had to change paint kind of halfway through while we were painting. So we're going to put our final paint onto our door and everything when that time comes. Now let's move back to the rear doors to finish out the edges.
With the upper parts covered, we're going to move on to covering where the taillights are on the trim pieces of our back doors. We don't want to have them permanently fixed, kind of like we're planning to have these upper pieces, because we're going to need access to this general panel. And then the very bottom, if you come around here, we're starting our plumbing now. So this piece down here is going to be pretty much just squared off, because we're going to have some of our plumbing lines going out here for like our drainage pipe. Air pressure release vent will go through there, so this is just going to be kind of boxed off. Same with the electrical side. We have our electrical, so much stuff. We have our electrical stuff going down here, so we have our shore power and our grounding cords are all going out this door, or out down here, so we're just going to box that off. And that's the plan for the bottom half of our rear door trim, so we're going to work on that.
For our taillight covers, we are putting in some furring strips, but we're not gluing these in because we want them to be removable, just in case we ever need to work on our taillight or get to any of the electronics right there. So we put in some rib nuts and are just installing the furring strips using bolts. And we did that on both sides already. And now we're just going to be putting another panel on top of it and screwing this in to the furring strips. We're using the utility ply again to match the rest and to make sure that it can bend enough to fit the curvature of this back part.
So we mentioned that we are going to box out the bottom of our door trims for our rear doors after we finished our plumbing and our electrical, and we have done that, and we are going to be able to make these removable, so if we do have to go and access these pieces, we'll be able to do it. So we're making them right now. We're just using 1/2-inch plywood. I've cut them down to size. So you can see right here we have the plumbing side, which is pretty easy because it butts right up against the plumbing box. And then I'll be cutting out this piece in a triangle, notching out for our air pressure release vent for our water tank. And then the goal is to have it sit flush on here and then insulate the inside of this box. So that way no air can get in, because we have 2 major holes on either side of our bottom of the doors, because that's where the shore power and the air pressure release valves are going out of. And then if you look on the passenger side, or the driver's side, look at the driver's side, same thing. Made this one a little bit shorter though, because we're boxing it out. So it'll fit flush here, and then we have this piece that'll go on the outside, like so, and we're going to need to notch out the bottom to fit the cords for the shore, our Starlink, and the grounding power.
We're back to the front of our van. We're working on this part of our sliding door area. We had to finish the back doors because we needed to put up our walling really quickly. So if you want to watch that video, make sure to click the link in the description. But now we're right here, and we want to be able to utilize this space right here, which is a really weird space because the metal starts to curve in. This is where I had to make that indent in on our control panel shelf. And so now what we want to do is to kind of make this space a cabinet, a usable cabinet. We're using the top part and the walling as attachment points, and so right now I've cut out this piece that kind of demonstrates how we're going to do that. So we'll have a piece that will attach to our furring strip up here, and then we will attach it to our walling down below. Unfortunately, on this other side where the metal really starts to come out, I have to do a bit of scribing. Next step is making the baseboard and the top board. One thing that I should mention is that this shelf is actually going to have an angle in it. So this board is actually about 4 inches shorter than this board. So it's going to be at a slight angle. I've got all the pieces made for our shelf. I've got the 2 sides and the base. And so what I've done is I've cut a couple more pieces. One, I cut a faceplate that'll go at the top, and I put angles on the edges so it'll sit flush, just like how it is in the front, because we're making the front a little bit angled. And then I also cut another piece to go at the top, and this piece will actually screw into the furring strip at the top. So this is more of a structural piece. But now we're ready to put these together. Another thing that I had to do is on one of these side pieces, I put an angle on it. That way it matches the front face. I did not put one on this side because this is the side alongside the cabinet, and it doesn't really need to match because it won't like stop the door from closing on this side. So I just kind of left it as is. So now we're ready to put this together. It is getting really cold outside. We're having a cold front come in. So we're gonna glue this together and bring it inside for it to dry. You don't need to hold the base. The shelf glued together looks pretty good up. It's flush with our cabinet right here. We do plan to put like a tiny shelf up here. We want enough space to be able to like hold toothbrushes along the side here, and then leave the rest as like a medicine cabinet. This will be right above our sink, so this is where we want to store all of our medicines and like bathroom products. You always got to think for every part of your living aspects. With our cabinet now painted, I'm working on the inside of it, and I'm starting with the backing that'll go on the bottom half of it. So I'm just going to use a 1/2-inch piece of plywood that we have extra, and I've cut it down to kind of fit like this. It kind of comes in at an angle because it has that piece of metal that juts out right here. So I thought this would be the best way to get the most amount of space inside this cabinet, but still have, you know, a good backing on it. And I did put a chamfer at the top to blend it with the shelf that goes above our door. We're ready to secure our cabinet to the ceiling. How we're doing that is we've already put it up with this block, so I'm just going to use it as the main point of putting it up. So it's going to be put in to the top, and I drew lines of where it lines up. I'm going to attach it using just a roof piece like here, and this will just kind of anchor it to the wall so it can't fall out. And that's pretty much all we need it to do. It doesn't need to be super strong because it'll just be holding a bunch of small items, and we don't plan on putting anything big or heavy inside of it. All right. Like that. Our side and back doors look so much better now with the tops and the sides of them completely done, and we've also given ourselves like an awesome control panel and some extra storage in the back. So they have turned out even better than we thought it would look like.
Yeah, we do have obviously some finishing touches, just like every project that we have in this van. But those will come later on in our van build series, so please make sure to subscribe to our channel. So we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
See ya. Gabriel.